grade 3-4 Montessori teacher at school.
Amazing grade 3-4 teacher. No plug there, no plug. No shameless plugging tonight.
I'm Leslie Nickel. I manage registration and the program success application process.
Fantastic. So it's our pleasure this evening to share with you. Oh, okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandra Singh, and this is my second day in New West School District. Coming from New Sam School District, and I am the Director of Instruction, Learning and Innovation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So again, just a huge welcome to all of you. We know the hour is creeping on, so we will do our best to share information with you that is important and meaningful. We'll be sharing highlights of the Montessori program, but I know that many of you, your biggest questions are really around the registration process, so we'll make sure that there's plenty of time for that, and of course for you to ask any questions that you have as well. In our district, Montessori is offered both at Squalwich and Connaught. So the program and the information that you will hear this evening is for both schools. And with that, I think I will head us into the territory recognition. Do you want to do that too?
Yes. Yes, we would like to welcome you and acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Kakite First Nations and all Coast Salish people whose land we learn, gather, work, and play.
Thank you. Before we jump in, can we do a very, very quick poll about who you are? I'm very curious. How many people are here because you have a kindy person in your life that is joining our school system in the fall? How many people have kindy? Fantastic. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. How many of you it's your first? How many is it? Oh gosh, that's a lot as well. Anybody for grade 1? I know we chatted with some people downstairs who had curiosity around entrance to Montessori at different grade levels. Grade 1, grade 2. With Montessori, there can be entry points from kindergarten to grade 5. So please know as we are sharing information that it is relevant from kindergarten to grade 5. And I know sometimes there's curious questions about that, and we're happy to touch on those later in the presentation. And I think we did all that. We did all that. There we go. Okay, I think this is you.
Sure. So what is what is Montessori? Montessori philosophy places an emphasis on individual student choice in learning and a balance between whole class lessons, small group lessons, and individual lessons. Montessori students learn that having choices requires taking personal responsibility. The use of self-correcting materials allows for a varied pace that accommodates many levels of ability within the classroom. Self-motivated learning is encouraged, and that's definitely my custom as well. Montessori students are supported in becoming lifelong learners and responsible global citizens. So this basically is it in a nutshell. We do a lot of whole class learning, individual lessons, small group lessons. I'm really trying to teach my students to be lifelong learners and to be good students and good people in general. So we take care of our environment. You see something on the ground, pick it up, throw it in the garbage, throw it in the recycling, help us out. Really teach the kids to be self-starters. I want them to be responsible for getting their work started without me nagging them. So we really try to emphasize the child and really kind of have them blossom into mature human beings and students as well. Sure.
And again, for this one, some people had a chance to visit us downstairs. We did have a bit of a display of some of the materials, so if you didn't have a chance to see that, please come back and visit us afterward, but I'll hand it over to you, Daryl.
Sure, yeah, so each Montessori classroom has many unique, beautiful, hands-on Montessori materials, often made of wood, so they last quite a long time, that help children become independent learners. So we touch on a lot of the subject areas in school. Literacy, so reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Math, so I really like all the math materials. I've been at school which used to be Richard McBride for over 20 years, and I still have materials that I got at the beginning of my first year that are still around. So like stuff goes missing over the years, but the wood really makes a difference. So just having those materials year after year, and I really preach, keeping track of the materials, like taking good care of the materials. So it also kind of lends itself to the Montessori philosophy, where we're really trying to teach them to be responsible, teach them to be good human beings. So I always say, let's try to keep this in good shape so that kids 10 years from now can use the same material and enjoy it as well. And just cultural studies, science and social, so there's a puzzle map in the bottom, left-hand corner, some language stuff in the top left, a stamp game, which is very popular in math in the top right corner, and I think that's a multiplication division board. So yeah, lots of unique materials that we were very lucky to have in the Montessori classroom. So independence. Students are motivated to become responsible for their own learning, which I really touched on earlier. Students in the Montessori classroom learn how to self-manage, problem solve, and think independently. So that's very important, especially in my classroom. I teach grade 3 and 4. So I'm also thinking about transitioning the students to middle school eventually. So Montessori goes up as from K to 5, so it doesn't go to the middle school, but just giving them the tools to succeed, just like work habits, organization skills, writing in your student planner, being a self-starter, and just being responsible for just the day-to-day aspects of learning. So just a little bit about Maria Montessori. So Dr. Maria Montessori is one of the most important educators of the 20th century. She was born and educated in Italy, but trained teachers and founded schools across the world. By observing young children, Dr. Montessori realized that they want to learn and that they like to work. She recognized the importance of children having the opportunity to concentrate and to work without being interrupted by an adult. And that's something that I'm trying to really start in the second term. Like, we're going to have a bunch of projects on the go. So we'll have like 3 or 4 things, and I'm going to have long work periods, so like hour-long work periods, and I'll break it in half, and it's the halfway point. So really try to get the kids to be self-starters and to really kind of manage their time. And obviously not everyone can do that. So a lot of kids need a lot of guidance, a lot of hand-holding, so it's just part of the learning process. Dr. Montessori was the first educator to realize that the children are the most important people in the classroom of the teacher. So a lot of the philosophy is the teacher is a facilitator and is just guiding the children. Our goal is for each child to achieve their full potential as a self-motivated, independent, lifelong learner. So we're going to touch on that. Okay. Kindergarten, broken into practical life, sensorial activities, children working with Montessori materials for hands-on learning. So especially at that age, just like the hands-on, the sensorial, getting in there with the hands and everything. I'm not as much of an expert on like kindergarten stuff. I haven't done that in a long time. So. And then, as you progress through the grades 1, 2, and 3, start with the concrete and move into a more abstract learning as each child is ready. Many individual and small group lessons. Continue to grow as intrinsically motivated learners and start taking on leadership roles within the classroom and within the school. So at our school, at School Which, we always have split classes. So it's really nice to keep the kids that second year so that the older students kind of have that responsibility to be my leaders and to be my role models. But also like some of the younger kids, like some of them are quite mature, so they can also kind of leapfrog and be leaders as well. So I just like that dynamic of having the kids I try to have them for at least 2 years so that they can kind of get to know the routine, know the expectations. And so this is more of my domain, grades 4 and 5. So continue to move into abstraction, individual, small group, and full class lessons. More learning is done independently, so being self-starters. Community service, leadership within the school community. So I can't speak to Canal, but I know it's School Which we have like a student leaders club with 25s. So they have an opportunity to help out the school and just be leaders on the playground. We have lunch monitors, stuff like that. So leadership opportunities. And I mentioned this earlier, just prepare to transition to middle school to give them the tools to succeed as they go to the middle school years.
provides all the resources that are necessary. But similar to a PAC, the Montessori Society works very hard to provide some of the extra learning opportunities and experiences for the children. So sort of similar in a way to the way a PAC would function. And there are representatives from both schools, and just as in a PAC, they are all done by volunteers, and there is an executive that is responsible for managing the business of the society. And we meet regularly with them, so there's 2 or 3 times over the course of the year that we will meet together with the society. We had a meeting, I guess it was before the winter break, so that's really how that part is there to support the programs at both schools.
So I'll just quickly go over the process and timelines. I'm sure some of you are also at the early French immersion, late French immersion session, and so it's very similar. Although the only difference I would say is that Kathleen or Ms. Chad already said that intake is any grade from K to 5, a little bit different. So the first step in your process would be, especially for K, or if you're new to the district in any grade, would be to register with us at our central registration department, which is located in the Welcome Center, just downstairs in this building. The registration window opens on November 6th and closes January 26th. So that's really important, even if you decide not to apply for a program of choice, to make sure that you register by that deadline. And I know that if you look on our website right now, we do encourage you to book an appointment, but they're all booked for the rest of the month. So don't panic about that, just walk in if you haven't already registered. It's important that you get your registration in as soon as you can. And then the second step would be to submit the online application form, which is available on the district website on our registration page under the Montessori heading. And regardless of what grade your child is entering, you would use the same application form. If you're already registered with the district, of course you don't have to re-register with Central Reg. The link, as I said, is on the registration page, it's right then. Upon completion of the online submission, you will receive a confirmation immediately that it's gone through, but you will also get one to your email. If you're concerned for any reason, you know, your maybe computer blacked out or something, you're more than welcome to email. The email address is given at the end of the presentation, and of course I'll take a look and confirm if there's ever any kind of doubt or worry about that. All applicants will be sorted by priority, which I'll go over in the next slide. And then a randomized supervised draw will determine most of the placements. Notification of your spot, whether you're offered a space or you're put on the wait list, will come to you by February 23rd. And if you're offered a space, you will be given until March 1st to reply and say yes or no to that space. And also something to note is that if you are put on the wait list, the wait list will dissolve for kindergarten on the last day of instruction in December before winter break. If you're in grade 1s and higher, it will be September 30th of next year that it dissolves. And don't be discouraged if you are waitlisted to begin with. I'm sure you can attest to it, Ms. Chad and Ms. True. The wait list moves considerably between the time of the first offers and by the time even school starts, or by the time the wait list dissolves. So don't worry about, initially don't worry about that. Also, I didn't mention in this slide, but I should have. You can apply for both early French immersion and Montessori. One application doesn't affect the other. If you're offered a space initially, say in French immersion, and you accept it, and later at some point you're offered a spot in Montessori, you don't get removed from the Montessori wait list because you've accepted French immersion. You will still be offered the Montessori spot, and at that point you choose between the two. Okay? The important thing to note though, however, is if you do take a spot in either of the programs, in a program of choice, you do give up your regular catchment space. So you are welcome, of course, to change your mind. You do live in the catchment, but at that time you'd be put on the wait list and you'd be placed as space permits. Honestly though, historically from what I've seen over the last 5 years, very, very few, if any, leave Montessori. isn't that true?
Yes.
Yeah, unless maybe they've moved out of the district. I can't think of very many people, I don't even know if I can think of any that have just said it isn't working for our child. Yeah, it's a well-received program. I think people do really well in it when they're yeah, I think that's it.
Can I just add? Yeah. You might want to sometimes check your junk mail. Because I know for some of my parents that are junky.
Yeah,
They don't receive our emails
Yeah.
for confirmation because it's gone in the junk.
yeah, it's not done by School Messenger, so that's something to know. School Messenger and sometimes mass emails, it does go to junk.
Yes.
I make sure that I send them through my email. No one gets copied or anything like that, they're individual emails. So, but still, one thing to note, even if it isn't junk mail, if you have not received an email on February 23rd, email programs of choice. You'll get one or the other, and if you don't see something, contact me. Okay? So this is the priority order. So first of all, siblings who are in the program already, you need to be in the program, in the Montessori program, in the same school, and that student, older sibling will still be in the program at the time of the younger child's entrance in order to receive sibling status. And those students are given priority. After that, all encatchment students, and we did have a question in the last session, I might as well address it while we're talking encatchment. Regular stream catchment is different than program of choice catchment. So your regular stream catchment might be at W. Howie, but your Montessori catchment is SCOED. So you're still considered in catchment for Montessori at SCOED if you're. So that was a good question from the last session, so I thought I'd get that.
Because there was one that came up earlier at the table where someone was curious about being able to, if their catchment was at one end of town, but they were interested in attending at the other end of town, is that possible if space permits?
So if space permits, so if we are able to accommodate all students on the wait list for one catchment, and there's still space left, we would entertain out of catchment spots at that point. To be honest, normally there's a sizable wait list, and it hasn't been an opportunity to do so in the past, but that doesn't mean from year to year that will be. So you can, there's a note section on the application form. The application opened yesterday at 9 a.m. It closes on February 2nd at 4. And you are able to put a note in there that you'd be willing to, you're interested in the cross-catchment application. However, you won't be considered until all other in-catchment applications are completed.
With regards to catchment, when you register and when you're giving your catchment schools, if you move at any point in the next 5 years before you hit middle school, how does that affect, like your kid isn't pulled out unless they're switching programs?
Unless they're aging out of the school,
Okay.
they're entitled to stay at school.
Okay.
Even if they move out of district.
Okay.
It's the transition use is when it is the issue.
And then what would happen when they hit middle school? Would they just continue with what they had originally, the original catchment?
No,
or-
they would be expected to go to the catchment middle school. And when you change addresses, you normally would come to, well, you might go to the school, but the school might even refer you to central registration. We do typically ask that you prove, when you registered, you proved your address. We do take new documentation just to prove it. Nothing, you don't have to come in, we somehow work it out, so we make it easier for you. But at that point, once you prove that catchment, the new catchment, I do keep track of that. And I make sure that if you are aging out of your school, not feeding into the one that school feeds into, the middle school, I contact you to make sure that you're aware of that. So I do keep track of that. But that's a good question. And then of course, Kathleen, the next is out-of-district students, so that would be out of catchment, but still living in district. And the last priority is out of district, which won't happen. We're not able to accept anybody out of district. We're too full district-wide, even in the regular stream program. So, but that would be the order of priority. And then just a few notes. Grade 1 applicants, or any grade, really, if you've applied a grade higher than kindergarten, who are already attending a school in New Westminster. If you don't get offered a space and you're waitlisted, you don't lose your space at this current school that you've been at. Not until you've accepted a space at the Montessori program. All new registrations to the district will be notified of school placement. That's wrong. That data is wrong, I'm sorry. Is this the wrong, okay, anyway, this is the wrong date, I'm very sorry, it's the wrong year in there even. I don't know if this is the, anyhow. Anybody that is notified for Montessori program of choice will get that information by February 23rd. And if you're waitlisted, you get the same notification the same day. Regular stream catchment is notified by the end of March, so March 29th. If you've accepted a spot in program of choice already, you do lose your space at the regular catchment school, so you won't get another notification March 29th. If you're waitlisted, you will, but that doesn't take you off the waitlist until you accept your spot. Sorry about that, I'm not sure when. It's February 23rd is the date by which everybody gets notified of their placement on the waitlist or a space. 29th is the actual regular stream catchment notification. We can update that before it goes on the website. Yeah. And there's the email address. If for some reason you have any questions at all, I'm the one that manages the email, and I have no problem answering any questions that you have. That may not get answered already tonight.
I'm just curious how, doing the Montessori program, I understand it prepares students to enter like a regular stream in middle school, but what about preparation to enter the French immersion?
So I can speak to that. When I taught 4 or 5 for a few years, we had several students transition from Montessori to the French immersion. So I guess it prepares them quite well. Like I don't know the exact stats, but I do know that I would say out of a typical Montessori graduating class, I would say at least a third of them choose the French immersion option. So I don't know if that's by design or whether that was the plan all along, or it's something that just piqued their interest, but there's a significant amount.
Yes. Yeah, lots of people transition from
I was just wondering, what is the benefit of doing Montessori versus doing a traditional school curriculum?
It's an awesome question. It's probably the most common question. So I'll start us off and then I'll invite others to join in. So the one thing I want to be clear is the curriculum that guides the learning in the classroom is the same for regular program and Montessori. We are all working within the umbrella of the British Columbia curriculum. And so it's really the path to the learning that would be different. And there are parts of it that would look very similar. So when you walk through our schools, there are things that you might walk past and look in and think, something's a little curious in this room. It looks a little different. But then others you'll walk along and it will look very similar. And it really depends on the age group of the children, and then of course what area of learning they are engaging in. So I think one of the biggest distinctions, and I'll invite everyone else to jump in as well, it really is around the philosophy that was developed by Maria Montessori. And in fact, much of our current curriculum is actually, has borrowed, has taken the beautiful work that Maria did and embedded that within the curriculum that we have now. The beauty of the materials is undoubted, and that is one of the big distinctions, particularly for the youngest learners. So I'll hand it over.
Sure. I just like thinking of it as 2 kind of paths, and they're all heading towards graduation. So as Ms. Chad mentioned, like we're all following the BC curriculum that's been mandated by the province. And I really like what Ms. Chad mentioned about how it's born a lot of the Montessori philosophy. So just like catering to the learner, following your own speed, what can the child do? And yeah, so I really enjoyed the transition change because I saw the new curriculum and I was like, wow, this is what we've been doing for a while. So it kind of dovetails quite nicely with the Montessori, so I didn't really have to change a lot of things. But further what Ms. Chad was saying, I think within the Montessori program, just at school, which I can't speak to but just at school, everyone has their own take of Montessori. So my classroom looks different from the grade 4 or 5 classroom, and although the grade levels are different, everyone's got their own autonomy on how they perceive the program. But I think the overall umbrella, the philosophies are the same. So you see a lot of commonalities throughout the classrooms, but you also see some differences, which is great too. So it's not all cookie cutter-ish. Like the way that I approach certain topics would be different from someone else. So that's just par for the course, just for teaching in general. Like every teacher's got their own take on it. So yeah, so. Yeah.
And I think for our school, we have 21 divisions. So it's a very big, bustling school. But there are lots of things that bring us together all the time. So all of our assemblies, all of our gatherings, all of our school-wide plans include everyone. And so, you know, there are definitely different paths to the learning, but in terms of being a community, we are all very much one. We are one community and everybody collaborates together and works together. Our teachers collaborate together all the time. So it is very interconnected.
Just from Connaught, we are a smaller school. We have 8 divisions. 5 of those divisions are Montessori. So they are, you know, the majority. And again, we work collectively together with the other 3 mainstream. And very similar. This is my first year. I was at Glenbrook Middle School the last 5 years. And being at this school, it's very similar to actually middle school because we do a lot of blended curriculum in middle school. So again, it's Montessori, it's the whole sharing or boring of philosophy. And I know in Connaught we do a lot of outside learning. And the Montessori, and the biggest piece I think what I've learned is the citizenship. When I go to the classrooms, it's about, you know, how can they, you know, Mr. Wong touched on the leadership piece in the classroom in school. I know going to my classroom, the visiting classrooms, it's just also extends to the community. What can we do to support and help the community and give back to the community? So that citizenship piece is very important in Montessori and in Connaught, and it actually has permeated throughout the school so that the whole, you know, even the mainstream sort of like, hey, this is great, we should be doing that as well. So it's a great fit, definitely with any school. Yes?
Yeah, I'm wondering about the websites, because before even coming here, I know your school got very excited about it because so much was posted there. I was like, wow, like this is a really active school and how you post on your website and how you draw attention and inform the parents. And then the last post on your school was in 2020, and it makes sense that it's your first year there, but I'm wondering is there another way that parents are communicated with, or is the website going to be updated?
We do, I know I do weekly update, we do updates and we do survey, so a lot of our stuff is very much based on this year in particular, we do screen, it's through my school community. Not so much on the website. So all of them, I guess if you're a Connaught, you know what's going on, but people outside of Connaught don't. Definitely I know our secretary is the one that updates the website, so I know she's the always.
Yeah, there's transitions sometimes with staff. And even our communications manager this year is new. And he is working on, you know, the autonomy between different schools, but he's brand new. So it's kind of a work in progress, and it's sort of an ever-evolving thing where we look at maybe some new platforms from the website, and so that's a good point to take back, of course. But yeah, definitely there will be big differences between different schools right now, and what their website presence, I guess, is probably the best way to say.
I think it was just because it's been over 3 years now. Now we're in 2024,
And a sharp contrast,
right? So it was a really sharp contrast on like, oh, is the school just not involved, or how does it go? Because it wasn't like 1 year, right? It was multiple.
Good to know.
Sorry, what's Sway?
Sway is our online sort of platform for sharing information. We used to do stuff on Twitter, and some teachers on Facebook, but we've been encouraging the district. It's a Microsoft tool to share information. It's like a blog.
It's very visual.
It's very
visual tool, and it's a way of just sharing images that is beautiful. It's a very beautiful tool, and I think sometimes what our schools have done is they are communicating their newsletters directly to their parents and not posting on their websites. And I think for us, just because we are a bigger school, and you know, I think we were trying to do lots of silly things during COVID times to create engagement. We took those away because they were really silly, but we them back. We took our history out because we thought, oh my goodness, no one needs to see more videos from those days. But I think it just, for us, has always been something that, because we had so many different things happening, was important. And we just were able to navigate and make some switches and keep it going.
So I have a question about, this came from the previous section. So if you're, let's say your child doesn't make it in the first year and they want to reapply in grade 1. I know I heard in French immersion it's kind of like a first come, first serve. Is it the same?
Yeah, for grade 2 and higher, this time and date stamped.
So it's a timestamp from January 6th or whenever that first day is?
Yep, January.
January. Oh.
Not for kindergarten, grade 1, but for grade 2 and higher.
2 and higher is timestamp. Okay, but grade 1 is kind of. Okay.
And we're based on, because the space is a little bit different. Montessori is a little better actually because you can, as Kathleen and I've already said too, you can join any year in the grade, and the class sizes do get bigger as the grades increase. So by grade 4 and 5, the class sizes, depending if it's a split or if it's a regular, but it could be up to 30 classes, 30 students. And then of course, depending on composition, but maximum is 28 to 30, depending on if it's split or a straight class.
Okay, thank you.
So, I want to know if there are any difference between difference on education for English learners between Montessori schools and normal district schools.
That's a great question. That's a great question. So I'll make your question a little bit broader, but the services that are available for any child who comes in with language learning would be the same. So whether you're regular program or Montessori. And similarly, if your child has any other kind of additional needs, whether there might be a plan or any of those sorts of resources and supports for a child, it would be absolutely the same in regular program Montessori and in French immersion as well. So our services and supports are fully available to every child in our schools. And our resource teachers are familiar with some of the different learning that happens in Montessori programs, and they would try as best as they can to provide a support in a way that mirrors, and often what it looks like is they actually be in the classroom doing the service and support right in the classroom. Particularly for our younger learners, that's what that would look like most often. It's a great question.
I'm just wondering about the whole student-led aspect and getting them to be self-starters and stuff like that. If that's something they struggle with, or perhaps, they're only interested in certain topics, not knowing others, how is that managed? Are they taught how to kind of?
Yeah, so I like to think of it as choice with limits. So I'll give them choices, but it's pretty much what I want them to do. And so you can work on math first or language, and then you got to switch. So it's like, yeah, you can give them a little bit of power, but really you're telling them. So like Ms. Chad said, I reiterated, like you have to follow the BC curriculum. So it's just like 2 roads ending graduation. So that's the decision.
Yeah, and I think what happens with the littles, when they start out, they're given limited choices. So in their work times, the teacher may say it's this or this, or the teacher may say it's this, and give that real guidance to them. Whereas in a regular program, I mean, one of the things that's different is there are more times during the day where all the children are doing the same thing or similar things. And that would be one of the other differences that you would notice if you spend time in a Montessori classroom versus a regular classroom. There is more of that personal work choice time built into the day in a Montessori classroom. There is in our regular classrooms as well, because that is part of the individualized learning that we are all striving for our students across the board. But we would see more of it in Montessori than in regular.
And I also do a lot of whole class teaching.
Yes.
Like I do tons of that. But I also do lots of small group, and sometimes you need individual, so I just take them aside, give them a quick little 5-minute lesson. So yeah, like I think you're going to see a lot of those styles in all classrooms.
And is there still like standard testing that I was used to when I was in elementary school? will actually see where there isn't.
Yeah, there really isn't, I think, in the way that you're thinking. We don't have that form of assessment any longer. We've moved away from that, and I think over time, through research, we've understood that there are far better ways of gathering information for abilities and needs of their churches, so that we can develop the instruction that they need that more closely attuned to where they're coming.
We do have the foundation skills assessment that is organized by the provincial, that the grade 4s and 7s and 10s do, I guess. So in grade 4, the students will have an opportunity to do the foundation skills assessment, which is a standardized test for all grade 4s in.
And that gives us a snapshot of knowing where kiddos are at. As parents, you have the option of having your child excluded from it. So even though it is that snapshot, like it's not kind of in the way that you're describing that maybe you recall when you were young, where every child sat down at the same time and we all took out our pencils. I know I did it. I loved them. I was the kid that was, yes, give me more of those.
Yeah, they're in a Montessori daycare right now, and they're learning tons. I just still don't understand it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, sorry if there are any questions, if they can come see you at the table downstairs, because the next group will
Email
have to
program
start.
of choice, that is forwarding, even if it's curriculum based, I will, if I can't answer, forward it to the right person.